Very good evening to all of you here. Coming last has its perquisites, especially when you've been motivated by around 10 to 11 people, wonderful speakers like Sarah and everybody out here. And my particular thanks to this institution, which has been wonderful. This is their first TED Talk, but doesn't actually seems to be their first TED Talk. Congratulations to this wonderful team out there. And thank you for having us all out here. The topic is clear, that what is the importance of the word why in our lives. Now, many years ago, there was this Mughal court which was in session, and Badshah Akbar was seated on his throne. And then he saw that, obviously everybody else was also seated there, that he saw that Birbal was standing far on the right. So he called him, Birbal, come here. And Birbal went to him and bowed before him, and Badshah looked into his eyes and he said, Birbal, are you ready for something? And Birbal said, yes, Badshah. And Badshah slapped him on his face. Now, everybody in the court was amazed at what's happening. Birbal himself was amazed at what has Badshah done to him. But he was beaten. So what he did was that he stood up, looked around here and looked around there, and there was the Prime Minister standing. So he went very confidently up to him and said, Mr. Prime Minister, do you know what's happening? The Prime Minister said, I don't know. He said, good, and he gave him a big slap on his face. The Prime Minister was bewildered. So he thought that since Badshah had given a slap and that has been followed by Birbal, there must be something fishy about it and I need to follow him. So now what he did was he looked around and he could see the finance minister standing out there. He went up to him and said, Mr. Finance Minister, do you understand anything? He says, no. And he gives him a slap on his cheek. The finance minister naturally goes ahead and slaps the state finance minister and so on and so forth. And within no time, the entire court was slapping each other. And by the time somebody could realize anything, the slap went near to the door and then out into the streets. And then everybody on the street was also slapping. There was a rumor that the Badshah had started a game which has to be ended, and everybody wanted to see what was going to be the end of it. Now, that evening, outside the city was a house. So the man came back to that house and his wife was waiting, and the wife saw this man and went ahead to take the cloths, and the man looked at her and gave her a big slap. The wife didn't understand what's happening. So the man said, this is a formality, the king has started in the morning and you have to keep doing this, so you have to slap the first person you see. The wife said, that's fantastic. And she finished the course and then she went to her job in the night. Her job was in the palace with the queen. Now she goes to the palace and she enters and the queen is coming and she sees the queen and then she looks into her eyes, bends, bows, then stands up and gives her a slap. The queen was amazed. What has happened? Now the maid bends and says, I may be forgiven, queen, but this is something which has been started by the king and I have to do it. I can't stop doing it. The queen said, wonderful. And pretty soon, the maid went away and came in after 15 minutes, Badshah. He comes inside and the queen looks with a fishy smile in her eyes. And the Badshah is not able to understand. And as he moves forward, predictably, the queen slaps the Badshah. And Badshah was startled for a minute, but then he realized that he has been paid back in his coins. Now here is the point, ladies and gentlemen. See, most of us are walking the way these people were walking. We are obsessed with what we are told to do. Our what? W-H-A-T. We don't know why we are doing what we are doing. And that's becoming our unbecoming. Now I want to take this discussion to a different direction. See, we are a country of 200 crore people almost. And we see things happening in and around us. We see people not working. You keep talking about the people in the government offices not working. You see the policemen taking bribes. You see all those sorts of things happening. And then you wonder why it's happening. And then you speak to the people. They say, we don't give values to our kids. And you say that this is a systemic problem. The laws are not working. We've got this heritage. We've got that. And ladies and gentlemen, what I feel is, the problem is that most of us out there in this country do not know that what do we want to do, but we also don't know that why are we doing what we are doing. Let me give you an example. Do you remember Arushi case? Now, this girl was killed in a home where there were only 4 people. And the murder was detected pretty early. It's strange that after 8 or 9 years, we have released all the 3 people who were imprisoned and still not able to find out who the culprit is. You go and speak to the people, you go and speak to the investigating agencies, and they will say that the murder scene has been botched up. In this century, in these times, when the technology is taking care of entire lives, it's strange that somebody is saying that the crime scene has been botched to such an extent that we cannot find out the murderer. Isn't it strange? Do you remember Mahi? Mahi. I'm not talking about Mahendra Singh Dhoni. She was a 4-year girl who drowned into a bore well pretty nearby in Haryana in 2012. She fell into the bore well on a Wednesday and she was extracted on a Saturday. 4 days, 18 inches wide bore well. Just imagine what would have happened to her. And I still remember that scene. An army soldier was carrying this little girl into her hands with a white cover on it. My stomach had butterflies and my heart was pounding and my eyes were having tears. There was no television channel which was not straining its cameras on that scene that day. The conscience of this nation was stirred. And then they spoke to the people, the engineers, and they said this is not going to happen again. So it's a difficult task, but this is not going to happen again. Did it? Have some figures. 2014. 50 people died in borewells. 2015, 76 people died. What does it mean? It means that 4 people every month are dying in the borewells. What does it mean? Every week 1 person is dying in the borewells. Even today. Even today. And now that kid, which was killed in a school, the father dropped that kid at 7:50 in the morning in that school, and then he receives a phone call saying that he has been hospitalized. The father rushes to the hospital and he's been told that he has been brought dead. Just imagine what his father and mother would have gone through. You speak to the principal and the principal said that we'll take care of that. We'll put into place systems which will not repeat this. We were expecting this. But merely 1 month after that, a couple of days ago, there was another death in another reputed school. And this boy was murdered in the daylight. At what time? It was the assembly time. The school is abuzz with activities in that part of time. Somebody enters, puts a hand on the face, and then he slit the throat. And you haven't yet found out the person. There are doubts about the person who's been imprisoned. Isn't it strange? Now when the people say, why is it so happening that we are not able to tackle this, and people start giving different explanations, I have to tell you, the problem is that the people who are into these things, the engineer who thinks that he cannot cover up all the block holes or the main holes, actually just wanted to be an engineer out of the reputed college. And the moment he became an engineer out of the reputed college, all his motivation has gone. He never knew why he wanted to be an engineer. In the Nirbhaya case, if you remember, this girl was dragged and brutally raped and then was killed. And the police commissioner at the end of it said, when he was being grilled after 4 or 5 days, he said that the police cannot go into the bedrooms and stop the crimes. Mr. Police Commissioner, police does not have to go physically into the bedrooms and stop the crimes. The fear of a just and fair police can go into the bedrooms and boardrooms and bathrooms and not know which rooms, but can certainly stop the crime from happening. And when you speak to these people, and you say that you can certainly bring down the crime to 0, you know what they will say? They will say, yes, it can certainly be done. But then they will say, in their minds, that this guy has gone out of his mind. They will say it's impossible, it's irrational, it's simply unreasonable. They'll say he's mad. If you ask them, they'll say it's not possible, you're mad. It's not possible, it's irrational. They will say that you've got to be out of your minds. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, I have to be out of my minds to believe that I can change the paradigm. I have to be out of my minds to change the universe, to change the world, and to change your life to another level. You've got to be out of your mind. years ago, this man called Baird must have been out of his mind to think that he can transmit your picture and your voice at a distance of 5,000 to 5,000 kilometers because he was inventing a television. 200 years ago, he was out of his mind. 150 years ago, other people who was inventing a telephone must have been out of his minds to think that he could do. And 100 years ago, Wright brothers must have been out of their minds. They must have been out of their minds to think that they can invent an equipment weighing thousands of kgs which would lift itself up and then would fly like a kite or a bird with a man on it. They were out of their minds, ladies and gentlemen. They were out of their minds because the work they did before that, they were the bicycle repairers. They were almost illiterate. They sold their bicycle repair shop and then invested it in what? Creating an aeroplane. They must have been out of their minds. Mahatma Gandhi must have been out of his minds, ladies and gentlemen, when he was thrown out into that platform that fateful night in South Africa. He must have been out of his mind. Otherwise, what was the reason he would have thought that he would bring independence to this country with the cooperation of all out there? What did we have at that point in time as a nation? Nothing. We had nothing. We had hunger, we had poverty, we had illiteracy, and we didn't have medicines with us. And who were we fighting with? We were fighting with the Britishers, the British Empire, the empire on which the sun never set. And they had their money. Their plates were full of food. They had their water. They had their medicines in the hospitals, ladies and gentlemen. They had everything. And they had arms and ammunitions. And they had with them at their back an authoritarian regime which did not hold them accountable for things like the Jallianwala Bagh. This man, Gandhi, must have been out of his mind to conceive that this country in which the people staying in the north would not know who's staying in the south, or who's staying in the north would not know who's staying in the east, would one day fight as a unanimous country, as a united country against this will. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to be out of your minds in order to believe that you can change things beyond a certain order. Nelson Mandela must have been out of his minds. Do you know the story of this man, Mandela? He was incarcerated for 27 long years in Robben Island. 27 years. 27 years. And when he climbed onto the Robben Island that day, when he climbed down to the Robben Island, he was put from the bag by the warden. And as he was pushed by the warden kept on saying, move, move. And the way he said was the way it is said to the animals. So Mandela felt very indignified. And he told to his fellow prisoner, I'm not going to move the way he's saying me to move. I'm going to move in a stately manner. Will you support me? The man said, yes, I'm with you and I'll move in a stately manner. And they started moving in a stately manner. They didn't move fast. And as they didn't move fast, the warden kept on saying, but they didn't hear. And then warden came in front of him, looked into his eyes and said, Mandela, this is not Pretoria. This is not Johannesburg. This is Robben Island. And you will die here and the world will not know. Just imagine. You are being put into a cell which is just 6 by 6 feet. So if you sleep, your head strikes one and the leg strikes the other wall. And at the end of the wall, there is one window which is just about 1 square foot. And on top of it, there is a glass which is so tainted that you can't even look outside. And every day you are getting the message that the world countries are supporting the apartheid regime and that your organization has been declared as a terrorist organization. He didn't know whether the people even know Mandela was alive or not. He had absolutely no clue. So what was the hope on which he was working? Just think about it. If he was not out of his mind, ladies and gentlemen, you've got to be out of your minds to create these things. And this is what I have to say about your why. You see, if you are happy with what you have in your lives, if you think what the life has given to you is sufficient, it's good and the best that the life can offer to you. If you think that the world is in its best situation to serve you, if you think that the universe is in its best shape, suppose you think so, I don't have anything to offer and I quit. But if you think that you don't have what the life has to offer to you, if you yet have not got the best that the life has to offer to you, and if you think that this world can be changed to a better place to live in, this universe, this paradigm, this thought process can be changed to a better level, ladies and gentlemen, I just have one thing to say to you. that move out of your minds and move to your hearts. Because in your hearts is your why. The reasons why you're doing what you're doing. Because when you know your reasons, as most of the speakers have said by now, when you know your reasons, ladies and gentlemen, you can fight the odds. You can fight the storms that will come your life when you're chasing your dreams and objectives. And these storms are going in your lives. When the people you love, they will withdraw their support. The people you trust, they will betray you. The friends you think were your friends will be jealous of your success. And your parents, your society, which you thought will be there to support, will not be supporting you, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing that's going to help you are your reasons, are your why. Why are you doing what you are doing? These are going to be your rod and staff in your life. So you have to handle these rod and staff in your reasons before you take charge of your dreams. And this is all that I have to say to you. Okay, if, ladies and gentlemen, you are dreamers, which I think you are dreamers, please move the first step out of your mind. Start moving towards your heart. Start moving towards your why. Because a person who goes to the grave without knowing the why is the person who might have existed in the life. But this is also the person who will have not lived the life. Thank you very much.